Good evening, everyone. And welcome to the Township Committee meeting for Thursday, March 26th. We are now beginning the public portion of the meeting. And let me begin with a little bit of an explanation, because this is the first public meeting that we have held on a remote basis since the start of the coronavirus declaration of an emergency. To allow social distancing and to reduce the chance of transmitting the virus among participants, this meeting is being attended only by some members of the governing body, with Celeste, who is on a remote speaker here. Is also our professionals are on a reduced basis. Albert, our township attorney, is attending via telephone link as well. The only others admitted to this meeting will be members of the media, and all attendees are sitting separated by at least 6 feet to meet the social distancing requirements under the governor's executive order. However, the agenda for tonight's meeting is posted on our township website, which is chathamtownship-nj.gov, and you can find it on the website by clicking on the Government tab at the top of the home page, and then clicking on Agendas, and then on Township Committee. As we normally do, this meeting is broadcast live on Comcast Channel 29 and on Verizon Channel 26, and is broadcast again, as we normally do. The video will be posted on our Township website for anyone to view at their convenience. Members of the public wishing to participate in the hearing of citizens portion of tonight's meeting may do so by calling this phone number, 973-635-4600, extension 209. In addition to the television broadcast and the telephone call-in procedures, the township just today upgraded the Wi-Fi coverage of this meeting room and much of the rest of the municipal building. And now that we have a strong signal, we will be experimenting with other remote meeting technologies to be used at future meetings. All of these steps are in compliance with the governor's executive orders directing how we in municipal government are to do our jobs during this declared state of emergency. Segueing to that state of emergency, an update on our status is in order. Chatham Township reported its first confirmed case of COVID-19 over the weekend, and as of 10:30 this morning, our Regional Department of Health announced 2 new cases, bringing our total to 7. We have asked for more details on the age and gender of our local patients, but our health department, on the advice of the State Department of Health, releases age group information only on a statewide basis. And based on those statewide numbers, we can report that the overall statewide numbers, 31% of all cases, 45% of all hospitalizations, 53% of all intensive care unit admissions, and 80% of all deaths associated with COVID-19 occurred among adults aged 65 years and older. The highest percentage of severe outcomes was among persons aged 85 years or older. Among patients with known ages, 6% were age 85 or older, 25% were age 65 to 84, 18% were age 55 to 64, another 18% were age 45 to 54, 29% were aged 20 to 44, and 5% of cases occurred in persons under age 19. So what that tells us is that there very much is a vulnerable age group, which is the older cohort, but that there is no age cohort that's immune to this, because there are patients right down to the very youngest age group. So we all should be taking that into consideration as we live our lives these weeks. What should each of us be doing? Number one, we should all be doing everything we can to prevent infection of ourselves and of our families and our friends. It's been calculated that one extra infected person can lead to more than 1,000 additional cases at the end of a month if each person infects only 2 others every 3 days. It's a geometric progression. So if you can avoid exposure to one extra person, you can potentially reduce the total a month later by 1,000 just by our own individual actions. We should also be washing our hands and using hand sanitizers frequently. We should be cleaning and disinfecting surfaces, including our phones, and covering our coughs. And we should definitely be maintaining our social distances of 6 feet with everyone outside of our immediate household. In addition to working to prevent infection, we should be preparing. There's no need to hoard, but we should be intelligently stocking our pantries with nutritious food. And for those on prescriptions, it would be well advised to be keeping a 90-day supply on hand. Number 3, we should all be staying home and complying with the governor's orders. Indoors, except for essential trips and necessary outdoor exercises, as the governor has ordered. We should be supporting our friends and the elderly, but we should be doing it with phone calls or at a distance and not with a personal face-to-face visit. And what do we do if we do get sick? If you are experiencing symptoms of coronavirus, which are fever, coughing, and shortness of breath, you should call your doctor immediately. If it is an emergency and you need immediate assistance, dial 911. You should alert the operator that you are experiencing coronavirus-type symptoms so our police officers and emergency personnel can arrive prepared. Now, what are we doing in the township to keep people safe? Chatham Township has closed all of its playground equipment, including Castle Park and the skate park, where children cannot comply with the 6-foot separation requirement. Our parks and athletic fields are open for what the governor's order describes as passive activities and those that do not violate the 6-foot social distance limits. For example, consider a walk, a jog, a run, or a bike ride, but group activities and any use of tennis courts, basketball courts, or paddleball courts are forbidden under the governor's order. Morris County also is keeping its parks open. So you ought to include the Luantica Preserve and the Giralda Farm paths in your outdoor exercise plans. If you'd like to even get further away from potential social distance infringement, think about the more woodland environments at the Great Swamp with one of their numerous paths, or our own Green Village Pond Conservation Area, where the trailhead is just beyond the Oak Knoll playing fields on Green Village Road. Please support our local businesses as much as you can. The governor's order has closed all non-essential businesses, but necessary businesses remain open. Restaurants continue to operate under the normal business hours, but with takeout service only. All of our local stores and businesses are operating under extremely stressful restrictions, and if we want them to survive, we need to support them now. All of our municipal offices, including the Town Hall, Police Headquarters, the Department of Public Works, our recycling center, and our sewage treatment plant are all closed to the public. Save a trip information is posted on the Township website with instructions on how to conduct business with the municipality without physically visiting a municipal office. If you have a question, call the appropriate department's phone number, which is available on the website. All of this information is current as of today, Thursday, March 26th. It will undoubtedly change, and the Township is participating in daily conference calls with county, state, and Board of Health officials to stay on top of the rapidly evolving information. When any of this information changes, we will bring it to you in every way that we can. To get the latest local updates, visit our Chatham Township Facebook page, where information is posted daily, or sign up for alerts when new information is posted. To get Act Now alerts, click on the red Community Alert button on the Township website. And the address of that Township website again is chathamtownship-nj.gov. If you missed it earlier, I will repeat the phone number again to call in to participate in tonight's meeting. That phone number is 973-635-4600, extension 209. But again, please don't call until we get to the public comment section of tonight's agenda. I want to thank everyone who is watching tonight's meeting from home. I apologize that the executive orders prohibit you from being here in person. All of us look forward to the day when we can return to normalcy, and until then, please continue to take care of yourselves, your families, and your neighbors. Thank you, and be well. Reports. Tracy, would you like to start?
Yes. Hello, everybody. These are strange times that we're living in right now, but we appreciate everybody's efforts to stay safe and social distance. And one of the things, echoing on Mike's theme about what's happening in the township, we reached out to our first responders to see how they're faring, what they need, if anything, and what they want the community to know. With the exception of our police department, our EMS and our fire departments are all volunteers, and they're placing themselves on the front lines to protect us. So I got back the answers, and I'm going to read them to you. From our emergency squad, from Evan Skinner and Steve Davenport, thank you for thinking of the squad. We remain capable of fulfilling our mission and see no immediate threat to our capabilities, including equipment and supplies. The best support our squad can receive is that our fellow residents adhere carefully to the guidance of the CDC, the state, and local health departments. We have received offers of meal deliveries, but have made staffing changes so that there's only one member of the building at time, while the others may be out on calls. They recently received a donation of masks and multiple containers of antibacterial and antiviral wipes from the Chatham Club and the Madison Y, and they're extremely appreciative of the community support. From our Chatham Township Police Department, as of yesterday, all officers are healthy. We are currently good with supplies, but will be in need of more N95 masks relatively soon. We are strictly enforcing all of the governor's orders and Morris County declarations. If you see people in groups not practicing social distancing, please call the non-emergency number for the police department and report. Who let the dogs out? Sorry about that. We have dogs participating. So if you see something happening, while we appreciate the letters or the emails that you're sending us about the situations, we can't act on it, so please let the police know. And on calls, please let the dispatcher or officer know if anyone in the home is experiencing symptoms or is self-quarantining so that they can take appropriate precautions. From our Chatham Township Fire Department, the fire department is doing well. We are following the recommendations from the CDC, the New Jersey Department of Health, the Morris County Chiefs Alliance. Our members are all in service and ready for all emergencies. We've suspended weekly drills and monthly meetings and have adopted post-incident cleaning procedures to reduce exposure. The Township Fire Department remains committed to providing emergency services to all of our residents. And from the Green Village Fire Department, they are also doing well, and they are operating at full strength. We have totally locked down other than for fire calls, and for the most part, our needs are covered. And they are trying to keep in touch with their membership and keep them engaged virtually. Their message to residents, please be helpful and as safe as possible. Provide us during the emergency call and upon arrival any information that will allow us to operate in an efficient as possible manner to minimize exposure to the police or to the public and to our first responders. So good news from our first responder standpoint in that they are all ready and willing to serve and that they're all doing well, and we'll give you any updates as they become available. On a good news point, and for a little bright spot in our meeting, we have had some wonderful responses in our community to what's been going on. We've had a group form called FLAG, Frontline Appreciation Group. This is spearheaded by Liz Burnich and some other volunteers, and over the course of less than about a week, they've raised more than $50,000. They're working a dual purpose, which is to support local businesses, local restaurants in Chatham and Madison, and in turn providing meals to doctors, nurses, and staff at Morristown Medical Center. And there's also a group within FLAG that has also started making masks. So it's been a wonderful community outpouring, an idea that started in upstate New York that was then brought here with great success. Some of the pictures from the people in the ICU and doctors and nurses and support staff who are showing the meals that they are receiving and expressing their support is just a wonderful thing to see. There's also been various volunteer support groups that have popped up, a place where people can volunteer their services for those who cannot get out of their home or just interact for support. Today there was a walk-by safari for families who wanted to walk by and see people who put out displays of stuffed animals and things like that. And the pictures brought a smile to your face. There was also a Chalk Your Walk Day to send out messages of encouragement to people in the community who were also out there walking, of which I see a lot. People also crowdfunded a new bicycle for a worker at ShopRite so she could get to work. So we have a lot of terrific things going on in our community as we gather together separately to support one another, to help local businesses, medical, our first responders, and each other. So I hope that that continues, and please be safe.
Thank you, Tracy. Karen, any reports?
Yes. Thank you very much. I have had a couple of conversations with our Department of Public Works lately about matters that matter to us so much. Our mulch delivery orders are starting to come in. Please make sure you get in touch with Christy Tragno at the Department of Public Works to place your mulch orders. The rates are the same as last year, from what I understand, and they are ready to gear up for delivery on Friday, April 3rd. Of course, like most other departments around here, the Department of Public Works has their doors pretty much locked up, but there is a place for you to drop off your check. So please get in touch with Christy and we will get that mulch over to you. There is nothing unhealthy about doing a little bit of yard work. So our guys are following all of the codes that the governor has handed down, all of the executive orders. They are maintaining our common areas, although they are not dragging the fields for baseball games yet, because sadly those things aren't going to be taking place. They are staying on top of the mowing and other basic landscaping needs of our parks. The date for opening our compost here in Chatham Township under ordinary circumstances would be April 4th. And as of this time, I have tried our best to keep Administrator Bob Hoffman aware, and we're working with legislators for their best advice to see whether we are in fact able to open the compost heap on April 4th. There are stay-at-home orders, obviously, as we all know, from our governor. But the question is, if landscapers are allowed to work and people choose to do their own landscaping, shouldn't they therefore be able to find a way to dispose of their own refuse? As long as there is no public congregating, as long as everybody maintains a social distance, for us to get down and dispose of our yard waste beginning April 4th seems to be a real possibility. Please don't take this, anybody, as a fact. We are working on making sure we can do it. So right now, the April 4th opening date is totally on hold until you hear otherwise. Department of Public Works, like everybody else, is kind of doing it on again, off again when it comes to their staff. They are not all at full strength, and thank goodness there's the manpower to go around, because we really don't want all of them in one place at any one time. We rely on them so much for other things. Tracy, thank you for your report on public safety. It is so important to know that those who protect us are well protected. So do everything we can, obviously, to make sure we are safe and sound to the best of our ability so that our guys can also stay safe and sound. And that is pretty much what I have for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen. Stacy?
I just wanted to add to Tracy's comments about some of the groups that have surfaced in town, which has just been amazing to see. You know, they see a need, and within 24 hours, people have banded together to do good things in the community. So I just wanted to add on to the comments about the flag of Chatham and Madison, the group that's they have donations, and they're using those donations to purchase food from local restaurants that's being given to different departments at the Morristown Memorial Hospital. And they've delivered many meals already, which has just been amazing. If you are not on Facebook, you can reach, because that's really where a lot of this came together, was on Facebook. You could reach out at flagchathammadison@gmail.com to participate. And the other group that's been doing wonderful things, really for the past 10 years for Morristown Memorial Hospital, is the Chatham Twig. And Chatham Twig has also been collecting all kinds of donations to help Goriab Children's Hospital. And if you want more information, you can either go on to Morristown Memorial's, sorry, let me pull up. You can go on to the Women's Association page, which is www.wammc.org, or if you want more information on Chatham Twig and what they're doing, you can email me at my township email, sewald@chathamtownship.org. And they really have been doing a phenomenal job. In terms of other ways to get information to help people in the community, nj.gov/governor, or Cheryl, our Congresswoman Cheryl, SHERRILL.house.gov/coronavirus. Lots of information, essential retail businesses that have been added to the list that are permitted to operate. You can find in either of those locations. You can find New Jersey has launched a job portal to help out-of-work residents to get opportunities in critical industries that need people at this point. There's a lot of really good information there, so both of those sites, so take a look if you want more information. And then just one other comment. I've enjoyed myself going out and taking mental health walks, and these are tough times, and the weather has been beautiful. So try and get out if you can. I enjoy waving to my neighbors from a safe distance, and everybody's been really great that I've seen in terms of maintaining a social distance. But I have heard from residents about people congregating, about children congregating. I know it's tough on everybody. I know it's tough on the kids. But, you know, the more that we can abide by the social distancing rules, the faster this will be done with. So, you know, we just ask that you hang on a little bit longer and try and keep the kids reined in a little bit longer. And hopefully we could all get through this together as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. John, do you have anything to report?
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Celeste, do you have any report?
Yeah, I think everything has been reported. I don't.
So you're good?
I'm good, yeah.
Okay, very good. Bob, anything to report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to echo what you said, we had the Wi-Fi installed today. It's been tested, it works, and then we'll go through a training and experiment on what will work, what kind of package will work best, whether it's Zoom or WebEx, so that we can have that as a way for our elected officials, for members of our different boards, as well as the public to participate in our government. That's basically all I have to say, but I will take this moment to give a shout out to my wife, because she made and delivered 30 masks to a hospital. So they had a call out, and she was able to do that, and she's looking forward to doing that again for others that need it. So that's my report.
Can I ask you whether you've had any further opportunity to discuss putting the wheels in motion on the mulch area? Obviously, I forwarded our discussion with State Senator Tony Bucco from a different district, and the fact that it does require an agreement among Mayor Kelly and you, I guess, and perhaps all of us, because it does, in fact, add an exception to the rules of Governor Murphy's stay-at-home order. Can you add anything to that at this point?
No, I have not had the opportunity to follow up on that since we had our conversation earlier this afternoon, but
Okay.
that'll be a tomorrow project.
All right.
Thank you. Albert, is there anything to report?
No, Mr. Mayor, other than to ask everyone to speak into the microphones as much as possible. Right, I can hardly hear them.
Sounds like a Board of Ed meeting.
Very good. Okay, that completes reports. The next item on our agenda is the introduction of ordinances and the...
Mayor? Before we jump into introduction of ordinances, I just would like to announce for the public's sake, at our last meeting, we had an introduction of an ordinance, and there was a public hearing announced for this evening, but because of all the COVID stuff and the cancellation of the most recent planning board meeting, that public hearing has been rescheduled for April 9th. I wanted to announce that for the public. That'll be re-advertised in the newspaper.
Very good. Thank you, Greg. And the ordinance that is on our agenda next is the introduction of ordinance 2020-05, reducing the open space tax. Greg, could you read the title?
Ordinance 2020-05, ordinance of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending the provisions for the funding of open space acquisitions.
Can I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Just the ordinance will be, the public hearing will be when, Greg?
Depends if it's introduced.
Oh, okay. We'll do the vote first.
Are you ready for vote?
Well, actually, just a quick comment. As everybody knows, or not everybody knows, but the open space tax was adopted in Chatham Township after a number of referenda to where the public overwhelmingly supported the idea. It's structured to be at 2 cents a year unless we vote otherwise, and this ordinance would set it at 1 cent, 1 tax cent, and that would be used. The intent is to use it to pay the debt service on existing open space purchases. It would probably not be generating the extra money for additional open space at this time. But Greg, if you could do a roll call.
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Motion passes, and the public hearing will be scheduled for April 9th.
The next item on our agenda is the introduction of the 2020 municipal budget.
This evening, the township will be considering introducing its 2020 budget. This budget is being introduced, but it is still a work in progress due to the coronavirus and many of the other issues that are with the state, or that we are working through with the state and local government. So there will be a public hearing for the 2020 budget for the adoption on April 23rd. So on April 23rd, all residents will have the opportunity to ask questions about all sections of the budget. And this is just the introduction, but please, by all means, look at the budget when it's put online, and then you are welcome to ask any questions. You're welcome to email us questions, and we will do our best to answer them ahead of time and have questions answered on the 23rd. So, as I had mentioned, the COVID-19 has cast a shadow over the township's budget for 2020. The state this week has sent out a notice, and it's a valid notice. They are looking to repurpose approximately $920 million so that they can put those funds into the effort to stem the spread of this virus and to make sure that the residents of our township and our state are safe. So as of yesterday at 4 o'clock, we received notification from the state, and yesterday, if people are going to be watching this on our website, yesterday was Wednesday, March 24th, or actually March 25th, we received notification that we would be receiving our state aid, which is approximately $836,000. Most municipalities will be receiving some form of state aid. But what we're doing is we know that there will be line items, and potentially there will be grants that will be either repurposed or postponed for future years. And looking at this budget, we're looking at all of our expenses. So everything as simple as 2 days ago, there was a requisition for about $1,300 for painting lines on athletic fields. Well, our fields are closed. Our fields are going to be closed through Friday, May 8th at least, and will probably be closed longer. We have some of the athletic line paint in inventory, so we'll just use that. It doesn't make sense to go out and use that expense when it may have to be used elsewhere. We're also looking at maximizing the use of non-tax revenues. So what's a non-tax revenue? The township is fortunate that we have received private grants for different pieces of equipment or different items, and what we're doing is we're making sure that those grant funds are used prudently. They're used when they're needed. Many of those private grants are used by and for our emergency services. We're also going out and soliciting some other private grants, and we're looking at other ways to share services with our sister municipalities so that we can all work smarter as well as working harder during this state of emergency. And then we're looking at contingencies in the event that the state does require additional funding, or that we have a prolonged need to change the way we do business. So we're looking at what projects can be deferred, what funding should be repurposed so that we can provide better service, whether it's investing in some of our IT or things of that nature. So the proposed budget at a glance. For 2020, we're looking at a proposed budget of $15,687,282. And by the way, this presentation will be posted on our website and made available that way, and we can also email it out if people request it. So that's what's being requested. The next line is a key line. It's the amount to be raised by taxes, and that's the money that we request from our taxpayers. That comes from our property taxes. So that's $9,929,529. In this year's budget, the surplus that we used was $3 million. So if we had not been able to use that $3 million, the amount to be raised by taxes would have been higher. A few minutes ago, you heard me mention state aid. Our state aid number is $836,467. This money is really a franchise and receipts tax. This amount of money has stayed flat for probably 12 years, but it's a significant portion of our appropriations. And up until yesterday at 4 o'clock, we weren't sure that that would be part of our budget. So we're glad that that number's on our slide. Earlier, before this budget presentation began, the Township Committee voted to introduce an ordinance to reduce the open space tax from its scheduled 2 cents per $100 of assessed value down to 1 cent. And if you recall from what the mayor said, the township residents in 1997, they voted to create the open space tax. And then in 1999, they voted again to increase the rate to 2 cents per $100 of assessed value. And the ordinance that was introduced earlier tonight will bring that down to 1 cent. And we believe that this is a prudent course of action to take this year because of the unanticipated expenses that have occurred. And the open space tax at 1 cent will basically service the debt that we have to pay off some of the acquisitions in past years. It won't quite do the whole thing, but it'll come very close. So we think that's prudent in these economic times. The I wanted to talk about one of the issues that has a direct impact on our budget. Also is something that all of our residents have been looking at, as well as our township committee, and that's affordable housing. The township committee will be looking at purchasing property so that we can build group homes and have ranch-style housing for future members of our community that have special needs. We're not sure exactly what that price would be, but the township committee heard what our residents said, and we are looking in different neighborhoods to see what property is available and what we can purchase. And this is an estimate that we're using right now for that. We also know that when we purchase some of the property, there will be improvements that have to be made to it, whether it's lot grading, things of that nature, and we're calling that affordable housing improvements. So that $2,960,000 would be in our capital budget, and that's just related to affordable housing. The capital budget has other items in it, such as Scott packs for our Green Village Fire Department, road paving, other equipment that would be needed for the DPW. But this is just a breakout for affordable housing. In our operating budget for affordable housing, related to the capital budget, we must have a 5% down payment for whatever is going to be in our capital budget. So the 5% down payment related to our affordable housing settlement and implementing that settlement so that we become compliant with the law is $148,000. We have legal fees this year that we anticipate to be $100,000. Out of that $100,000, there's a portion of that will be, that's approximately $30,000 that would be for Fair Share Housing Centers legal fees. We also have engineering and appraisal fees that are related to affordable housing. And then there's the annual contribution that we make to Vernon Grove for the 72 condominium units that remain affordable housing for our residents. So in our operating budget this year, we have a total of $352,000 that's related to affordable housing expenses.
Bob, just to be clear on one point, sorry, going back to the...
Sure.
When it comes to the capital budget, just so residents are clear, the affordable housing, this is just the piece that we would need to bond for this year. So there's going to be, of course, additional additions to the capital budget going forward for things like the River Road project and, for other things that we need to do down the road. This is just what's hitting.
Yes, this is our estimate for 2020. There would be other expenses in 2021 and in future years, yes. Was that the question? Yes. Okay. This is a breakdown of a dollar so that you have a sense of how your tax dollars are spent. For 2020, 66 cents out of every tax dollar would go to the school district for the education of our children, for the maintenance of our schools, and for other needs related to education, whether it's busing or food service, things like that. And then the county is 16 cents out of every tax dollar. That goes to the county for services such as the county parks, for the sheriff, for the jail, for some of our courts, and for the other many good projects that come to us from our partners in Morris County. Then the township portion for 2020 of our proposed budget is also 16 cents out of every tax dollar. So for that goes to our police department, which provides 24-hour service to us. That's for for work in our DPW that covers road paving and other things like that. So we're looking at at 16 cents out of every tax dollar that would come to the township for the needs to serve you. When you look at the local tax rate, that's the part of the budget for municipal purposes. So that's that's what I just described for the township, but that includes the library and that includes open space. So when you look over the last 3 years, in 2018 and 2019, that rate was flat. And then in 2020, which is this proposed budget, the rate goes up to from 3.20 to 3.348. And some of the reasons that the rate goes up is that in 2020, there's a programmed increase in debt service and interest on bonds. So that's payments that are being made in 2020 for bonds and for bond anticipation notes that had been approved in previous years for necessary work that had been done, whether it was for improvements, infrastructure improvements in our sewer treatment plant, or for the DPW road paving, for the acquisition of property and with open space. All of that is part of that that debt service payment that that had been approved in previous years and we knew was coming this year. Also this year, we've invested early in the year in our information technology. We want to be able to protect your personal and your financial information. We're putting more things out to you electronically, but before we do that, we need to make sure that we've made every effort to protect what's near and dear to you as well as what's near and dear to the township. So we've made a significant investment to make sure that as we sit here, we have done everything possible to protect your assets as well as the township's assets. And then the third item that makes up that rate is the affordable housing. I mentioned in a previous slide that in our operating budget, we have $352,000 that's related to our affordable housing, the implementation of our affordable housing obligations, which is one of the constitutional mandates from the state of New Jersey. Also, part of what's making up that rate is that we've reduced our revenue forecast. So looking ahead, we believe that there will be more tax appeals, and that we will be making sure that the assessed value on properties are fair. So there's a trend that looks like that will be occurring. We also have our construction office. What was anticipated for 2019 we did not make that revenue target. So the revenue in our construction office was off by $91,000. So we've reduced the revenue estimates there, and we will probably within the next month reduce those revenue estimates again, just based on what's happening with our economy. And also, one of the good news for residents all over the state of New Jersey is the state streamlined some of the programs under the Uniform Commercial Code, and there are less permits that are required. So if you want to put a roof on your house, or you want to put vinyl siding on your house or do something like that, it no longer requires a permit. Previously it did. The state did adopt that, and that helps our residents. And that's one of the reasons why we've also there's a fall off in the revenue, but a good reason for that. So the township, the proposed budget, we will have our adoption hearing, or the public hearing for the budget would be on Thursday, April 23rd, and there will be a full-blown presentation on the budget. It will be much more significant than this. This is just for the introduction. And there will be the opportunity for input and questions from the public before that, and also at the meeting. And we anticipate that we will be using, we will still have our social distancing, so we will be using our newly expanded technology capabilities to make sure that our residents are able to participate in the meeting. And with that, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Bob. Now, what can people expect to see on the website before the public hearing?
Well, Mayor, they will see this on the website now, but we're receiving probably a week prior to the budget, we will have a more robust presentation about the budget. There'll be more analysis, but we also are waiting. We're looking for clarity from the Division of Local Government Services on how our grants will be affected. So we have received grants for road paving on River Road. That's about $212,000. We have received grants of about $119,000. That's a matching grant for a walking trail that we just need clarification whether that's something that those funds, whether they will be repurposed or and the project's postponed for future years, or whether they will go forward. So we want to be able to give our residents accurate information, and we will, once we have things confirmed, they will go into our presentation. But I want to make sure that we're not putting something up and then having to take it down because it changes. So we've had, we've worked with our colleagues at the state and at the county level on some of these issues, and we're looking for some more clarity, and we will follow the directives related to the budget, but also we will help in whatever way we can to make sure that the resources are in the right spot to make sure that the coronavirus is is attacked and that we win. On that note.
Thank you, Bob. Any other questions?
Yeah, I know you're going to spend a lot more time on the 23rd kind of elaborating on everything that feeds the budget, but I guess I just wondered if you could touch base on a lot of the drivers for this budget are kind of things outside of the township's control. So whether that's affordable housing or previously incurred capital commitments that now are generating debt service. So, but I wanted you to speak to the parts that are kind of within your control. I wanted you to speak to briefly, head count, the overall budget for, let's say, DPW, police, the administration, just some highlights.
All right, sure. The head count for the township has stayed the same. We have not added any staff. The 2020 budget does not anticipate adding any additional employees. The DPW, we had a long-standing vacancy that was recently filled. That's been our most recent hire, and we're looking forward to that person coming aboard because they have significant skills where we have weaknesses, and they will help us to work smarter and be able to do more work in-house and rely less on outside services. The other drivers, the police, our police department will stay the same. But speaking of the police department, in planning for how to fight this the COVID-19, I have to give credit to our police chief because the police are on the front lines. They're looking. Some of our sister municipalities have 30% of their police department that are not able to work. They are self-quarantined or they are ill. One of the things that we are doing is we have 2 retired police officers that were hired by the school district. They're actually hired by the township, but they work in the schools. They're the SLEOs, the special officers. So they are retired law enforcement officers. They have. If we have a need, they will be able to help go on patrol. So that will help maintain our ability to serve our residents, and that's something that is a credit to the thinking of our police chief, just to be able to say how can we plan ahead for the next couple of weeks or months if we have to if we have an officer that has to self-quarantine, and that's one of the things that we're going to be able to do. We also, let's see, overall, our budget, when we go through the budget presentation and on the 23rd, you'll see that our expenses rose just under 3% for the year, but that increase of 3% includes a significant amount of debt service. So many of our expenses we were able to reduce because we knew that there was going to be an increase in debt service. So that will be something significant that you will see that we had planned, or we had looked at this, and our overall expenses went up about, I think it was 2.99%, but that included a big jump in debt service. And then, of course, we have litigation and we have tax appeals. Last year we had we probably settled 9 or 11 tax appeals, but we have some tax appeals that are still out there that have been going through the courts for 9 years, and there has to be a closure. But each tax appeal requires that we have an attorney that reviews the case, that represents the township, and then we try and reach a fair agreement before it goes to court. But sometimes we have to go to court. So those are some of the drivers that are really that don't stand out in the budget, but they have a significant impact, and they have a significant impact on a multi-year basis.
Bob, can you flesh out the tax appeal process just a little bit in terms of actual figures, not how many tax appeals we're facing, but exactly how much money we actually owe back to the residents? Obviously, a tax appeal is the overall tax burden that the homeowner is faced with every year. We don't get reimbursed from the school district. I'm assuming we don't get reimbursed from the county when they reduce their annual tax burden. We reimburse them for the whole amount. But what are the average figures? Is the average figure $1,000 back to the homeowner, or what is the average figure of a recent history? And when you talk about the expense of settling these tax appeals, the average cost to the township for settling it.
All right, I'll be able to give you more specifics at on the 23rd when we have the budget, the full presentation. But what I can tell you, and I want to thank you for bringing that up. Whenever there's a tax appeal, whatever the settlement is, it is 100% on the township. So we saw the slide of the dollar before, and there's when there's a tax appeal, we're settling for the full amount of the appeal. So we cannot go back to the school district and ask them for 66 cents out of every dollar of the settlement. We cannot go back to the county and ask them for 16 cents out of every settlement. So that's why it's important that we have surplus. That's also why it's important that we have a reserve for tax appeals. And that's something that the Township Committee in 2020 has recommended that we do, is that we set up a reserve for tax appeals, and we set up a reserve for storms. So I'm glad that you brought that out. But what I will say right now is that in round numbers, it's tax appeals are twofold. It's people don't appeal the dollar amount of their taxes; they appeal the amount of their assessment. So in round numbers, we have appeals out there for about $345 million worth of taxes in the borough, in the township, and that's both for commercial properties as well as residential properties, and that equates to about $6.2 million in taxes.
Is that the overall assessed amount of the property, or that's the amount that's in dispute?
That's the overall amount that's the assessed value for the property that's in dispute. So there's about 25 properties out there. I think it's $345 million. That's the value on those properties, and whoever the owner is believes that it should be lower. and then there's the ratio of that to how does that translate into the tax dollars? And that's approximately $6.2 million worth of tax dollars that we're looking at. But I will have more precise figures for the meeting on the 25th, the 23rd, I should say.
6.2 million is the amount that's currently being assessed.
No, that's the amount that would be, that's the dollar value, that's the tax dollar value of that $345 million.
Right. So if they were to appeal their 300, if you took the entire figure and said that they were going to all of a sudden have an appeal in their favor of 5%, let's just say, then you're going to reduce the 345 million of assessed property values by 5%. And then their tax burden would be reduced by a commensurate amount.
Well, it's a little more complicated than that, because usually the tax appeal goes through is over several years. So there's a some years there would be an agreement that the value is, at one level 1 year, then it might have gone down for another year, and the goal is to provide a credit going forward, whenever possible. So.
And how much of the information is out there for us to know regarding what the change in the home values assessment is?
I'm not sure how to answer that question as of...
Well, look, for example, if your home was originally assessed without being on a busy street, now all of a sudden they're coming to us saying, my home is on a busy street, or you're saying that I have a very high home value because I have an extraordinary view, and I don't really have an extraordinary view. So we ratchet down their appraised value in the tax rolls. Do we know what these qualifications are for reducing what the standards of their appeal are?
Well, for each, it's based on each property.
Right,
because
exactly.
So I can't give you a specific answer, but what I can say is there's appraisals involved. So each
Right.
property is appraised.
Right.
And then it depends on how long the tax appeal has been going on, how many years,
Okay.
that it's been going on. And then one of the other questions that was asked is what's the cost to the municipality
Right.
for the appraisal? So on average, the appraisal costs us about $6,000 for each appraisal.
Okay.
And the commercial appraisals cost more.
Sure.
So,
Okay, thank you
all
very
right.
much.
So again, but we will have more information on the 23rd.
Very good. Any further questions? Thank you very much, Bob. Sure.
Thank you.
The next order of business is the Resolution 2020-089, introducing this year's 2020 municipal budget. Greg, can I ask you to read the title of that when you have a chance to?
If you look in the packet, it doesn't have a formal title
Okay.
the way normal resolutions do. It's just municipal budget notice.
Okay.
And it's one of the sheets that'll be in the budget that'll be posted on the website, presumably later this evening or tomorrow.
Very good. So could I have a motion to on that resolution?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Greg?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondaco?
Celeste?
Yes, yes.
That a yes on the introduction or the resolution for the introducing the budget?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
Mayor Kelly?
Yes.
Motion passes, and as already mentioned before, the public hearing will be scheduled for April the 23rd.
Thank you. And the next resolution, 2020-090, for the budget self-examination. Bob, could you give a quick summary of that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Every 3 years, the municipality has to submit a budget down to the state, and the state does their line-by-line review of the budget. The other 2 years, the municipality can do a self-examination. Last year in 2019, we had to send our budget down to the state. You may recall that it was, there was a delay because we had to do that. For this year and for 2021, we are able to do a self-examination. So this means that we look at the budget, our auditors look at the budget, and then it's certified.
Very good. Greg, if you could read the title.
It's Resolution 2020-090, resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, regarding self-examination of the 2020 municipal budget.
Thank you. Give a motion to introduce,
So moved.
or a motion to pass this one. A second?
Second.
Greg?
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
And Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Which brings us to the consent agenda. Greg, if you'd read the resolutions there.
This evening's resolutions are Resolution 2020-081, amending temporary budget, 2020-091, receipt of reports, 2020-092, approving meeting minutes, 2020-093, approving executive session minutes, 2020-094, appointing member to the Community Garden Committee, 2020-095, releasing escrow balances, 2020-096, authorizing agreement for Wi-Fi services for municipal building, 2020-097, authorizing selection of appraiser per Resolution 2020-087, and then finally, Resolution 2020-098, budget transfers.
Can I ask Counselor Mr. Cruz, do I vote on Resolution 2020-092 since I was recused from the bulk of the meeting? Or do I abstain from approving those meeting minutes?
I did not hear your question. Could you repeat that, please, and get closer to the microphone?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I was being plenty loud. Forgive me. I usually am. Regarding Resolution 2020-092, approving meeting minutes in the consent agenda, since I was recused from the bulk of that meeting, do I abstain from approving the meeting minutes?
Yes, you should abstain. That should be pulled from the consent agenda, voted upon separately, and you would abstain when that vote is taken separately.
Thank you, Albert.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Greg, could you,
Well, do we have a motion and a
that's
second
right.
on the remaining resolutions?
can I have a motion for those remaining consent agenda resolutions?
So moved.
What's that, Albert?
No, you're separating the resolution of the minutes. You're pulling that out of the
Yes,
consent agenda.
but we need a motion on the remainder of the
and you're
consent
voting on the
agenda.
remainder.
Yes, on the remainder, with not including 092. Can I have a
Thank you.
motion to,
And I made the motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the meeting minutes resolution.
very good, and a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondaco?
A little louder, Greg?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
And Mayor Kelly.
Yes,
And then next up would be the Resolution 2020-092 for the approval of the minutes.
thank you. Can I have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Ewald?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondaco?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
And Mayor Kelly.
Yes,
And Mrs. Schwartz had already noted
And
that
I
she was
will
going to be
abstain.
abstaining.
Yes, thank you, Greg.
So, I didn't forget you.
I felt forgotten for a minute.
thank you very much. That brings us to our hearing of citizens. Again, the normal comment on that is that normally we ask people to come to the microphone and identify themselves by name and address. Tonight, we're going to ask people to phone in. Again, please begin your comments by identifying yourself by name and address. And we'll limit everybody to 5 minutes, please. And again, the phone number to call, so that everybody has it handy, is 973-635-4600, extension 209. So we would welcome anyone to comment or at this point. That phone number again is... Aha.
It's like a radio show.
Very good. Hello, you're on the telephone. Could you identify yourself by name and address?
Hi, it's Sharon Tether from 115 Huron.
Sharon, welcome.
Hi. I just have a quick question. Did Bob Hoffman say we pay $6,000 in appraisal? I do.
We're passing a
Mayor,
microphone.
could you repeat the question
Yes.
for everyone?
Never mind. It's not going to come through. But thank you. Bye.
The question was, did
In tax appeals, do we
Oh,
pay $6,000
not-
for administrative costs in tax appeals?
No, if the question was overall, that was for legal fees. We pay $6,000 on average for legal fees, all of our costs, we don't pay $6,000 for appraisals. We pay it for the attorneys, for the, for an appraiser and for specialists. So, please, we don't spend $6,000 for appraisals. It's the overall, a packet of professionals that defend the township and evaluate what's fair.
For the appeals process.
For the appeals
when
process.
somebody comes to contest their
Correct,
tax
correct.
assessment.
Thank you, Bob. The line is open if anyone has a question.
Yeah, and thank you to Sharon for letting us know that actually works.
Yeah.
She was our first person to call in.
That was very brave.
Looks like Mr. Barmekian has a question.
Yes.
At the beginning of the meeting, Greg said an ordinance had to be, I guess, tabled because there was no planning board meeting, but it was unclear what you guys were talking about. Can you explain that, please?
Okay.
Yes, at the last meeting, ordinance 2020-04 was voted upon for introduction, and we had announced at the time a public hearing for tonight, and it was advertised as such. But because of the procedural requirement for the planning board to conduct a master plan consistency review before the township committee takes action on it, that meeting didn't happen. Therefore, the township committee has to wait for the planning board to presumably meet on April 6th before they can proceed to take action. Yes, it's wrapped up with all of that. It was, oh.
I believe it's more than just that. It's part of the housing element that we have to, the planning board has to review every 10 years. So that's part of it. We're coming up to that deadline, and there is a component for affordable housing, but it's the housing element that we have to do. We have to look at.
Everyone, please speak into the microphone.
He is.
Yes.
I was.
The phone number again for call-in comments and questions is 973-635-4600, extension 209. Okay, game show, we should have something to fill the, the space here. I'll give an extra moment for anybody who is dialing in, but then we will proceed to closing the public comment portion. So if you do have a question, please call it in now.
I feel like we're calling in for concert tickets. I'm giving away my age, but I remember doing that, standing by the phone and calling in for concert tickets.
Well, hearing no one, we will close the public comment portion of the meeting.
Oh,
What?
we got one. Just under the wire.
Very good. Hello and welcome. If you could identify yourself by name and address.
Sure. Hi, Mike. It's Jessica Romeo, 49 Pine Street. I just tuned in, so I don't know if this was talked about, but has anything been discussed about public pools?
What aspect of public schools?
Public pools, like
Oh.
pool, P-O-O-L, aquatic facilities, and whether or not towns in New Jersey can proceed with standard operating procedure for opening.
Right. Yes, let me repeat that question for everybody.
I'm going to hang up so I don't cause a vibration thing on the phone. Bye.
Could you repeat that?
She's going to hang
No,
up so it doesn't give you
hang up
any
the phone.
feedback.
Oh, okay. Very
Mayor,
good.
if you would repeat it, if you would repeat the question, Mayor.
I will. Very good. The question was, whether there had been any discussion of the municipal pool and how it was being impacted by the state of emergency. Bob, can you give us an update on that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The governor's executive order requires that there be no, no gatherings greater than 10 for I believe it's an 8-week period, but when we looked at the calendar, that would be Friday, May 8th, is when we would be able to again consider that. It's our understanding that the ban on gathering together will be extended from May 8th through a further period of time. That means that the pool is in a state of limbo. We will have to wait and see what makes sense. We're not going to open the portal on April 1st for people to register for the pool, because then we're not sure when the pool would open, and we don't want to have people register and then give them back some kind of a prorated refund. There's a lot of work on the back end, and it requires a resolution of the Township Committee. But the question is, for our pool, or for almost any pool, you have to be able to have more than 250 people, or around 250 people being able to gather. Right now, that's not the case. So it's a work in progress.
A work in progress.
I would also like to mention, having served on the Board of Health for a number of years, we know that every municipality's public pools and clubs have to be inspected. So our health officer will have to go around to every pool and make sure that they have Board of Health inspections done. And who knows when they're going to be able to do them. If the work is all put off, if the maintenance duties are all put off, then chances are the Board of Health wouldn't be able to get in there, or the health department rather, wouldn't be able to get in there and do the pool inspections, so that pushes that back as well.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, we're open for another call if anyone at home has a question. Hearing no one, we will proceed to close the public portion of the meeting. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. We're back up to the agenda, and I believe we have need for an executive session to wrap up some things at the end of the meeting. So, Greg, if we could have a resolution?
Yes, sir.
Before we do, and I would just like to echo the sentiments of all of us here to thank the residents for their extraordinary cooperation throughout this trying time. The moms who are homeschooling their kids, and the kids who are not having to be peeled off their walls, for the ones who are really adhering to the governor's instructions on staying out of crowds, following health protocols, going out only when necessary, that sort of thing. Trying to take the pressure off of our extraordinary Chatham Township Police Department, making sure that we are keeping to health protocols. Our Office of Emergency Management has been working very well cohesively. We are in regular touch with our utilities, those who are serving the community from all different aspects. So really, I just really want to extend thanks to all those who are making it work and staying in constant touch with our residents and with our emergency management. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. It's a well-deserved thank you. It's much appreciated.
So for the executive session, it's Resolution 2020-P-09, resolution of the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham in the County of Morris, State of New Jersey, authorizing conference of the Township Committee with the public excluded, whereas NJSA 10:4-12 of the Open Public Meetings Act permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Chatham, County of Morris, State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of the specified subject matter. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Potential voluntary acquisition of property. It is anticipated that the minutes of the subject matter of the executive session will be made public upon conclusion of the matter under discussion and in any event when appropriate pursuant to NJSA 10:4-7 and 4-13. The committee will come back into regular session and may take further action. This resolution shall take effect immediately, and I do not believe that we expect any public action after this executive session.
Correct. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Greg?
Mrs. Ewell?
Yes.
Mrs. Fondaco?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartz?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ness?
Yes.
And Mayor Kelly.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good.